Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Next Generation's Campus Conversations podcast. This episode, we have our guest, Mia, back. If you didn't listen to our last episode, we discussed kind of her research process going into looking at schools and everything like that. And today we're going to be discussing more about the applications and the financial considerations that come with going to school. So, Mia, we are ready to talk to you again. I know last time I was such a bad host and didn't give you the point to give you a little
No,
intro.
you're
So I don't
good.
know if you want to give yourself a little introduction, tell our
Mhm.
guests a little bit about yourself. But go
Sure.
ahead.
Hi, my name is Mia. I'm going to be a freshman at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville this fall. I actually moved in this Sunday. So by the time this comes out, I think I'll probably be either moving in or be moved in. So
Yes, you will be moved in. Official college student.
official college student. So exciting. Yeah, so I will be an incoming freshman. I am planning on rushing at school, and I actually just got an internship with Tennessee hockey.
It's amazing. And look at you, little overachiever,
I know.
getting internships and everything like that. So that is awesome. We're going to talk about the application process today. So let's get started. So I know that, since we've talked, and we talked about researching and everything and how financial stuff was really, kind of top of mind in a lot of things with college being so expensive. What were some other factors that influenced where you applied? Was that really the main factor? Were there other things that you were looking for?
Yeah, for sure. So, especially for me, all throughout high school, I was super involved. I was on my school's dance team all 4 years, played volleyball my freshman year. I loved going to all the sporting events. And especially too, because I am a sport management major, I wanted to make sure that sports were very prevalent in the school. They had a good, not like a good standing, but like they were a better sports school, preferably D1. Like those are the things I was looking at. And my parents were like, seriously, like that's what you're looking at? But when you're majoring in something regarding sports, like, okay, I'm going to be looking for internships. I want to make sure that, the sports teams are super involved and there's a lot of different sports teams and it's not just, oh, there's only a basketball team and that's it.
Yeah, because it gives you more opportunities. And, it kind
Exactly.
of goes back to what you
hmm
mentioned earlier is, you're starting college with kind of that
hmm
internship opportunity with a sports team. So
Exactly. hmm
that's awesome.
For sure. When I was applying, I never would have thought I would have gotten an internship right off the bat, but I'm so grateful that I did because I think it's going to be a really cool experience. And I'm grateful that I got one of them. But had I gone to a school that maybe had less involvement with sports, I feel like I wouldn't have had those same opportunities. So that really was one of the main things that I was looking at aside from like the basic, like, okay, tuition, acceptance rate, stuff like that. Another big thing, though, that I know we talked about a bit in the last episode was location. I knew I wanted to go out of state. I didn't really want to go to one of the state schools because I knew a lot of like my other classmates were going to state schools. I was like, okay, I don't really want like high school 2.0. Like,
Well, that was totally me. I was like, to a school in state, but I
Mhm.
went to a school in state that not a lot of people from my high
Yeah,
school went to. So
yeah,
I
for
totally understand.
sure.
Yeah, and do you see that those were the schools that were kind of recruiting a lot at your high
hmm
school? Were they like, those college recruiters that would come in and to talk to you? Were those kind
Yeah.
of all the state schools, or were
hmm
you seeing more of a diverse set of schools?
It honestly, so I went to school, I live in Illinois.
Mm.
For everyone watching, I live in Illinois. So my main schools that were kind of like shoved in our face in a way was ISU and U of I. Obviously, I think U of I just got named as one of the new public Ivies. So super, super cool. U of I is great school. Same with ISU I visited. But like I said, I just knew I wanted to go out of state. But it wasn't as much the that would come or like mail that was sent. It was more counselors. I went
That's
to
interesting. Counselors were kind of pushing
hmm
state
yeah,
school.
especially I started off, I was like, I want to be a forensic chemist, and then I changed
Oh
to,
yes,
okay,
I
I just want
remember
to be a chemistry teacher. So especially once when I said chemistry teacher, all the counselors were like, you need to go to ISU. no other choice ISU
And
because
that
ISU is
happens
known for
because,
education.
yeah, but you also know that there's other schools, across
Exactly.
the United States that are
Hmm.
also known for education. I mean, I can think of a couple just right off of the top of
Yes,
my head now.
exactly. And I get it because education's so tricky because you have to worry about where you get your teaching license and then does it transfer over or do you have to reapply for that? So came to state schools, they really, really were pushing those, especially when I was saying I wanted to possibly go education major route. And then I interned one of the chemistry classes at my school and I was like, this is fun, but I don't feel it. So that's when I ultimately decided, like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. And then my counselors kind of let up on like the state school. They're like, okay, I guess you can go somewhere else. My actual counselor, like the one that was assigned to me, he was great. Mr. Sobey, if you're watching, I love you. You're the best. He literally got me through senior year. He was like, you go, girl. Like, you're going to rock it. He was my biggest cheerleader. But yeah, there were definitely some other counselors that still, even when I was putting in my applications, were like, you're applying to state schools, right? I was like, I applied one.
Yeah.
That's the best you're going to get from me.
And do you think that you leaned on those counselors a lot, being a first generation student too?
Yeah, for sure. I would go to my counselor after school and just ask him a question, and it would be a 10-minute conversation, which to me, I was like, oh, I'm bothering him. But he was like, no, you're not bothering me at all, which
I mean,
was
that's it.
really reassuring.
Like in the handbook.
Yeah, exactly. Even just like little questions, oh, like, does this sound okay in my essay? And he'd be like, yeah, that's fine, because like I said, my parents, they don't know all that stuff. They would have read my first draft of my Common App essay and been like, oh my God, this is amazing. Submit it now. You
Yeah,
know what I
you're
mean?
going to Harvard. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
every parent. Like, my mom would have probably said the same thing. And like,
Yeah.
well, you're going to Harvard.
Yeah, for sure. So, definitely took my counselor's advice and opinions like really to heart and like I relied on them throughout that process a lot. But also too, they let me make my own decisions, which was really, really nice. So,
That's nice. Did you
hmm
get like any other advice that you kind of acted upon from the
hmm
counselors, like when you went to apply? I mean,
hmm
obviously they read your application essays and
hmm
things like that, but
hmm
you know, anything like that.
I would say, well, this is kind of interesting because when I was applying, I think my class was the last class that could apply test optional. I think this year they're changing it back to everyone, you have to submit test scores.
Yeah, there is some changes
Hmm.
going on. And
Yeah.
like I don't want to speak incorrectly or
Hmm.
out of turn
Yes.
here, but I know there
Hmm.
are test changes going on with
Yes.
test scores. Yes.
Because I applied test optional to all my schools except Tennessee. But yeah, when it came down to deciding if I wanted to submit my test scores, that was kind of tricky for me because I was like, I know I'm smart. My GPA speaks for that. When it comes to testing, I am not a very good test taker. So my scores were like good, but
Yeah.
they weren't like top of the class like whatsoever.
That's how I
So
was. Like they
yeah.
like my GPA didn't match back
Hmm.
exactly with what I got on like I took the SAT. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you took the ACTs
Hmm.
or
Yeah. No, for sure. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people can relate with that. I feel like, my personal opinion, I think the testing is kind of outdated in a sense. I feel like it just doesn't really match up. I know in my school, for the previous juniors who are about to be seniors this year, their SAT that they took, it was electronic. And if you got questions wrong, they made the next question easier. But if you were getting the questions right, they made it harder. I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
oh,
I can
I'm
see the pros
glad
and
that I
cons to
took the
that.
SAT on paper.
Yeah.
Like
No, I know. I don't know. It could be good, but I also, as someone with anxiety, I would be like, wait, why are these getting easier? Am I doing bad? And then, like, that would just
already
immediately bring me down.
yeah, there's already enough testing anxiety
Hmm.
that like the
Exactly.
addition of that is crazy
Yeah.
and scary.
Mhm. No, I agree. When I was applying to my schools, I was deciding, okay, should I just submit my test scores, be completely transparent about my test scores? A lot of my counselors, and like when I did a lot of my research, a lot of times it said that they care more about GPA and involvement than test scores. So I was like, maybe I should just submit them, just why not? And then my actual counselor was like, yeah, like just do it. And then one of my other, she wasn't my counselor, but she was my coach. So like we talked to her for advice sometimes. And she was like, do not submit your test scores if they aren't in the window. Like if the window was like 1340 to like 1400,
Mhm.
I had a 1260, so
Wow,
that's
we're
where mine was.
twins.
Oh,
That's
period. Are you
exactly,
serious?
that's
Odds. Are you kidding
that's literally my exact SATs.
me?
But I had to submit mine. I had to submit mine to all the schools that I did. Mine was not test optional, but that's actually crazy. That was my exact SAT score.
But you get what I mean. Like, it's a good score. It's above average, but like
Yeah.
then you have people that got like 1300 plus, and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, like it's like
Yeah, it's like
right in the middle
good,
here.
but it's like you're just like
Yes,
teetering on like the
exactly.
like really good.
Exactly. It was like tricky, but my coach was like, do not submit it if it's not in that window.
Mhm.
So I was going back and forth. And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I just ultimately decided not to. But like I said, that doesn't probably really apply unless some schools are keeping it test optional to anyone now. But that was, I would say, the other like really big conversation that I was having with my counselors during application time.
Like having it test optional. Like, you think that that change is not good for students?
I don't know. See, like, I want to say yes. I like test optional because, like I said, I'm a terrible test taker. But then at the same time, it depends on like what classes you have. Like, are they just easy A's because then your GPA gets higher? And then if
That's
you're not applying your test scores, then it's like I don't know. See, like, it's so tricky and it's like you go into one thing and then it like branches out in like a whole nother topic of conversation, you know?
Yeah. And I also think of like the stress that comes around the test,
Yes.
studying for the SATs or the
hmm
ACTs, and
Yeah.
taking those classes. And I
hmm
know that we talked last time about balancing responsibilities. And I know
Yeah.
that when I was studying for the SATs, that was like one of the hardest times for me to balance
Yeah.
everything, just
hmm
because I was so stressed, because I think
hmm
with it not being test optional sometimes is it's like you
Yeah.
feel like the test actually determines your whole future.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but I think that there has been, with it being test optional and now going back, like
hmm
hopefully they'll be looking kind of at students as, a whole thing and not just the
Oh,
test
yeah.
scores. But that was always like my like, "Ugh, I'm so scared.
No, exactly.
So, how many schools did you end up actually applying to? When you
hmm
got your list down and everything, did you apply early action, early
hmm
decision to any? And like, what kind of went into that process?
Yeah. So I applied to 5 schools total. I applied to one in-state school, got into 4 out of 5, which was really cool. Super grateful for that. As far as early action, I had all my applications in by November 1st. That was just a personal preference. I know some people that waited and did like the normal application and they
Mhm.
got in. Like it didn't really change much, but I was like, I want to be able to enjoy the rest of my senior year. I just want to get them done and over with. And then also too, it obviously then does help because you get your decision back earlier. For me, it was just in the best. It was in my best interest for me to just apply early action. But yeah, so I didn't get accepted into UMich right away. Everywhere else I got accepted right away, and then UT Austin I got rejected.
Sorry. So, when you got
No, you're good.
accepted into all of those schools, were they pretty transparent about pricing, like the pricing packages and everything, or obviously with like financial aid and
hmm
everything?
If I can remember correctly, right off the bat, it was just like, okay, you got accepted, yay, and then like confetti, prize. But yeah, and then as far as like, at least for me, I don't know if they do it differently anywhere else, but for Tennessee, I had to, you know, well, I committed first, and that was a 200 or $250 deposit to put down to say that I was committing to the school. I obviously could have waited until I got my financial aid, but Tennessee was one of my cheaper schools. So I was like, I'm really, and it was obviously my top school. So I was like, okay, I'm not really going anywhere else. So I just
Yeah, so
committed.
you're like at that
Mhm.
point financially it was already making sense. So
Exactly.
you're like whatever extra stuff I can get on top
Mhm.
of this is it's still going to be cheaper than
Exactly. No,
like
exactly.
yeah.
And even to, oh, that was the one thing. My scholarship that I got through Tennessee, that was listed inside of my acceptance letter. Everywhere else, though, I didn't have any like financial information. It was just like, you got accepted, that's that. But yeah, so as far as tuition wise, that was kind of like, I just kind of Googled,
Yeah.
and that was as much as I got.
Yeah. And do you think that the fact that like Tennessee kind of was like, hey, you're getting, this amount of money off on your tuition, you already knew that it was your top school after you had visited and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
also made it be like, okay, now it's like actually financially feasible, like kind of sealed the deal almost.
Yeah. I feel like when okay, so this is gonna sound so, like, crazy, like, stupid, like, nerdy, but, my AP Lang teacher my junior year, he's like, "Once when you learn about rhetoric and stuff, you will see it is all over the world," and since that's all I ever look at. I'm like, "Would you look at that syntax? Would you look at" like, it sounds so nerdy, I literally sound insane, but literally
Right. That's
when I got my acceptance letter, the first thing, okay, you see the big congratulations, but then the second paragraph was, here's how much money we're giving you for going to the school. That was the second thing I saw. When I look at my other acceptance letter, they didn't write that on the letter. And then I had to look and do my research and then look through the portal and stuff to then see if I got any scholarships or anything like that. But Tennessee, putting it right there, the placement of putting it right where I could see it, right when I got my acceptance, that was another thing that really drew me. And I was like, oh my gosh, look, I got money off. My parents, especially too, because they were really big on financials and stuff. They were like, oh my gosh, you're getting money off. This is great. Team Tennessee all the way. So that really, I would say, was really helpful and I would say beneficial for me, but also like Tennessee, because
yeah.
I then made my decision and then go there.
Oh, that totally makes sense. So,
Mhm.
obviously, I know that you said that you kind of had decided to go to Tennessee before financial aid came
Mhm.
out and everything, but would be amiss if we did not talk about the whole FAFSA
Yeah.
fiasco this year.
Yeah.
So, I definitely would want to just pick your brain a little bit about that and kind of like
Mhm.
how much did financial aid, obviously you kind of did already pick, but how much
Mhm.
did financial aid actually have an impact on,
Yeah.
your college decisions and when you were getting back financial aid packages from other schools, like where you
Mhm.
were like, wait, I wish that I would have seen this, a couple
Mhm.
months ago before, all of this stuff and even
Yeah.
being waitlisted. Like I know
Mhm.
you said you got waitlisted from
Mhm.
University of Michigan, like
Mhm.
that waiting period, just
Yeah.
all about that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as financial aid, my family's we're like pretty well off. We're not like rich or anything, but we're good. So I knew I wasn't gonna get anything, a little bit, if anything, like
Mhm.
nothing. So that definitely is difficult, especially because my parents aren't paying for my college. I'm paying for it all myself. So that was definitely like financial aid was kind of like, okay, that's out the window. So, as money wise for college and stuff and like filling out my financial aid, like I filled out FAFSA, I submitted it, I got
Mhm.
a loan, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then my parents obviously had to take out a loan and then like co-sign and stuff like that for
Mhm.
me because 18-year-old me doesn't have $33,000 laying
Yeah,
around.
like, you don't just have that from your
Yeah,
part-time
exactly.
job from high school.
Exactly. So had to take out a few loans and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as financial aid, it kind of was just like, it was just there. I did the FAFSA,
Yeah.
but yeah, so rather than a lot of people will be like, oh, it depends on how much financial aid I get from each school, and that'll determine where I go to school.
Mhm.
For me, it was more, okay, it depends on what scholarships I get from the schools, and
Yes,
then I'll decide where to go.
that's what I was going to ask you. Did you do a
Hmm.
lot of research into, like, scholarships that you could get
Yeah.
to school and like see like little extra things like that?
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I would say as far as I knew I could probably get a couple academic scholarships,
Hmm.
especially from the schools that were more my target school. As far as like Tennessee, U Tampa, stuff like that, I was like, I probably have a good chance getting academic scholarships there. That definitely helps. But yeah,
Did you do
college
any
journey.
outside scholarships? Like, I can't think of any of the websites off of the top of my head, but
Yeah.
especially because I know, like in your case, you were like, okay, I'm not going to get financial aid, but also I'm the one paying for my college,
Mhm.
not my parents. So, you know,
Exactly.
obviously getting those scholarships are and big for you. So did you look on any of those like websites or things for those like
Mhm.
little like if there's just like those $1,000 scholarships?
Mhm.
Eventually those add up. So
Yeah. Mhm, for sure. As far as national scholarships, I applied to like one or two, but my school was really good about drawing attention to like local scholarships because a lot of students don't see them or like learn about them. So there's
yeah.
not a lot of people that apply. And B, like I said, like there's not a lot of people that apply. So like you have a greater chance of getting picked or winning it. And there were also a couple scholarships through my school that went on, which was really, really nice.
Do you think it was like kind of hard to find all those scholarships? Because also there's like a ton of national scholarships too
Hmm.
that I know like don't get a lot of applications. So I
Hmm.
think that it's hard to find scholarships sometimes, like if they're not provided by a school. Like obviously for Tennessee, they gave you a scholarship, but kind of like you're looking on your own, like, without them putting it
No,
in your
exactly.
face,
Yeah.
hard to figure out where you can get the money.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I would say so. For my school, we did applications through Common App, but then also something called Maya Learning.
Mm.
Maya Learning had a scholarship page that gave you national and local scholarships
Oh,
that you
that's
could apply to. So our school is really pushing that if we are looking for scholarships. So I mainly used that, but it definitely, you could just search up like on Google national scholarships or scholarships for, and then your town
really.
or anything like that. And I'm sure you'd find a good amount. I know at the really, really beginning of my college search journey, I did that and I found like a pretty decent amount of scholarships, which was
Makes a lot of sense. Were there any other resources that you used? I mean, obviously you used your college counselors and
Mhm.
Google and just searching
Yeah.
stuff. But did you do any like for finance, obviously, just like cost of attendance and just trying to figure out like what is the actual total cost of like year? Did you use any of those like calculators that they have online or?
I used one calculator, but it was like, I don't know. It was really confusing. That's the difficult thing. Like, I'm trying to use it. I don't know how to use it. My parents don't know how to use it. I was just trying to see. So I made it like halfway through the form to fill out, and I was like, okay, no, I'm done. Like, I can't figure this out.
I am not a statistician. Like, I don't
Exactly.
understand what this is. I just want to be able to type in my budget,
Exactly.
and then like my information, and you tell me like,
Exactly. Hmm.
around what it's gonna attend.
Hmm.
I also
Exactly.
like, do you think that that would be nice to even have like on a school website? Like when you
Oh,
go
yeah.
and you get accepted, like even
Hmm.
if they're not, like you said, like Tennessee was really the only one that was super transparent about putting that right in the second paragraph. But
Hmm.
if they have that on their website, like, oh, got in, like try to see like your cost of attendance. And
Hmm.
even if it's
Hmm.
not exact,
Hmm.
that'd still be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
I think it would definitely be nice. I think some schools that I was looking at, they had it, but like I said, it was really confusing, and for me, it was kind of difficult to navigate. I don't know all like the terminology and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, I just really relied on my counselors for that. But yeah, even like when it came down applying to schools, it was like, okay, how much do you think I'm actually gonna be paying? Adding in like all those extra expenses, and my counselor was really able to help me with that.
Yeah, I mean, you even mentioned like the commitment fee. So,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
did you pay that commitment fee while you were waitlisted from UMich? So you kind of were like in limbo with them still?
Yeah, so I was first deferred from UMich,
Mm.
and then I was waitlisted, and then I was accepted into the sport management immersion program on my birthday, which is really funny, but that was June. Yeah, so that was kind of like
And you applied
later.
early, so that
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
long time to wait.
yeah. And I get, okay, like getting deferred, I got it, my decision on the early decision
Mhm.
day. Okay, that didn't exactly help when I was choosing between Tennessee and UMich. You know, here I am, Tennessee was like, we love you, come to our school, here's money. And UMich was like, okay, we still don't know about you yet, and we're not going to let you know until June. So that was kind of the other thing that made me decide to go to Tennessee. I already put down my commitment fee. I had to pay my commitment fee. I had to pay a fee to go to orientation. Then I had to pay $200 to put in my application for Rush. So I had to pay all of that, whether I committed to Tennessee, because I committed to Tennessee in January, I
Mhm.
think. So whether I committed then or I committed May 1st, like everyone else, still didn't find out about UMich until June, which is after I paid $600, $700. So say UMich was still my top school. Okay, now you're saying you're going to accept me, but I already just spent $700 at Tennessee,
Mhm.
you
And
know,
it's
so
late, like, and it's
exactly.
so late, like, I
Hmm.
mean, you're talking about how you're moving in on Sunday, so that's literally,
Exactly.
like, what, like, 2 months ago
2 months.
you got that?
Exactly.
So then you
Hmm.
had 2 months to figure out, housing and your roommate and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and honestly, at that point, I feel like a lot of people have roommates that are, like, outwardly looking for it, so
Yeah. So that was kind of like, okay, like, because had I been wanting to go to UMich and I'm out $700
yeah.
from Tennessee, that I'm also now going to probably have to pay my commitment fee, orientation fee, rushing fee, all at Michigan now.
Yeah.
So it's like, financially wise, it just wasn't smart for me then to switch to UMich as
Mhm.
much as I loved it and as much as their school is amazing. But yeah, so I'm a very firm believer you always end up where you're supposed to be. And like I said, I love Tennessee. It ended up being my top school. When I was picking
Mhm.
out the pros and cons, like, okay, I really think Tennessee is beating UMich at this point. So I was like, yeah, I'm so excited and so grateful to be going to Tennessee after all.
Well, I am so excited for you, and
Thank you.
know that the next part you'll probably be in like a dorm or something or completely different area, which
Crazy.
is so incredible and it can give us, kind of how you are actually experiencing college now, some more stuff. But we answered a lot of questions today, and I am so so grateful as always to have you as a guest, Mia. I am
I'm
also
so grateful
so
to be
excited
here.
to finally move into college and start the college experience. That is so, so exciting. So, just to
You.
wrap up today, we talked a lot about financial factors, whether that's FAFSA, scholarships, and how that kind of affects different students, especially, might not get financial aid, but I still want scholarships and I still need
Mhm.
scholarships. We also talked about, tests and test optional and kind of all the things that go around that and leaning on our academic counselors for support and all those fun things and listening to them. So thank you so much for
Of
joining us again.
course.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Next Generations podcast. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Countdown is so, so scary to me.
No, I know.
Perfect. We got this. Thank you for tuning into the Next Generation Campus Conversations podcast. I'm Camryn, your host. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or YouTube for more authentic biweekly chats with incoming and current college students. For more information about Meet Your Class and its benefits, visit www.meetyourclassinc.com.